organized
that's
about
awesome.
it. But
so and then do you do that down at 519?
Yeah.
Nah, it's dope.
Yeah, it's cool. It's weird. It's amazing that they were using all of this professional equipment to do that show. It's ridiculous that they're letting us do it. But it's on Channel 27.
Right.
Yeah, you can watch multiple episodes of Mostly Complaining on public access.
Which I think is great.
Yeah.
I think that's fucking great. Well, because I just went down there. I went down there last week to do a guest spot on one of my buddy's podcasts, and I was blown away at their equipment.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's awesome down. Like I thought I had a cool setup, but then I looked down there and I'm like, oh my god, this is this is like tens of thousands of dollars when it comes to equipment.
Nice television cameras, it's nice. It's really cool.
And then we were talking about this little, like, really right before we started, but then you're like hosting these open mics. I see a bunch of flyers for all the shit that you're doing around town, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
Man. No, we do the mic, Red Door downtown. We do that every Wednesday, or I do it. The Humpening. So that's like a fun one. It's it's a fun one. And we're Sam and I are doing we're producing shows, so we just started a showcase at Bow and Arrow Brewing, and we're doing one at the Dry Heat Comedy Club, and then we do one at B2B Garden Brewery. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So because I've kind of, since starting this, and like I said, I was talking a little earlier, like I've had Jared on, I've had Buck on, and I've kind of, and Zach too, Zach Abeta, and I've just noticed this like explosion of comedy in the city.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that too? Like as a comedian in it? Like, is it more exciting? Because I had no idea about stand-up comedy in this city pre-COVID.
Yeah. And it was here, but I think that it's bigger now. I mean, like there's definitely been a sea change. I mean, we have a comedy club, whereas we didn't back then. I mean, there's more people that are producing and putting on shows. There's better comics. That's like kind of part of it is that we got some people that were, when COVID hit, were kind of getting there, have gotten really good since then. So there's a lot of people that have gotten a lot better.
No, yeah, and I've noticed that
school. Yeah,
there's like a lot of like, obviously like I wasn't privy to it beforehand, but there's just a lot of like familiar names now that are floating around everywhere. Super talented. I mean, fuck me, you're one of them. Fucking Thanks. Jared, Zach, Buck, fucking Zach, Steph Darnell, Buck, all Steph those Darnell.
Guys. Yeah, Josh Fournier. There's a lot of really good ones here. Kurt Fletcher's he's been good for a long time, but no, it's actually we have reason to feel good about the scene here, honestly, and I've been traveling. I've been going to like other scenes, kind of like in the Four Corners area in Texas. And not to say anything bad about any of the scenes that I visited, but Albuquerque should feel good. I mean,
really?
We're doing all right for the size market that we are. So
that's good to hear. So where did you get your start, man?
I got it here.
Yeah.
I
guess what got you started? Like what got you into it?
I had always wanted to do it, and I had been I'm still a musician, but mostly I'd just been doing music my entire life.
Please continue. I'm just going to check the cameras and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had always wanted to do stand-up, but it really it was a deal that I was in a long-term relationship. I was married, and it just wasn't really conducive to picking up a new thing. You just have to be out every night to do this properly. I mean, to do stand up, it's almost like it's really kind of like a full time. You're out 5 nights a week. If you're doing it seriously, which isn't great for a long term relationship. But I got a divorce, so that's when I got started. Yeah. So yay.
So how long have you been doing it for?
About 2.5 years, something like that.
No shit.
Yeah.
No, it's dope, man. Because I give credit to, especially going to the open mics and something like the roast battles that happen down at Revel and all that kind of stuff. I give so much credit to anyone who even attempts it, because that just looks fucking terrifying. Oh my God.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, you get used to it after a while, but yeah, like eating shit in front of a bunch of people is not the greatest.
So what, like, because what is that like in the aftermath of it? Like picking yourself back up, like, I'm going to still do this.
In the aftermath, well, and that's like really kind of what separates the people that keep on doing it from, people that don't, is that your your tolerance for humiliation is like more. So, but like after in the aftermath of like a bomb, like just like a really bad show, it's the worst ever. I mean, it's like other comics don't want to be in your proximity because it's like you have this. It's almost like you have the stink, on you.
It's like it's contagious.
Yeah. You just like feel bad for whoever that poor leprous, person is. But honestly, you just. I've had like some of the best comics that I know, and we're kind of all this way. We will have like a show that isn't even a bomb. It's just like you kind of do half, I don't know, mediocre, and it's like, why am I even doing this? I got to rewrite everything that I've ever done. So it's a constant questioning yourself. I think if you're improving, then you're constantly questioning yourself anyway. So
right. No, because it's funny to me because I'll talk to musicians like either on here or just because they're my buddies, and they're like, "Yeah, we do what we do, but we'll go see what the stand-ups do." It's like they're by themselves. God bless them. At least we have each other.
Yeah, and I can speak to that from doing both. It's music doesn't scare me at all because it's like you can hide behind instruments. You're singing. There's no people aren't required to laugh. There's no audience like you want them to clap after, I guess, but they're not required to like do anything while you're doing it. They have no factor on how well you do the song. But comedy, it's like very apparent very quickly whether you're doing well or not. But that's what I actually like about it, is that it's like where you stand, at all times.
So you feed like really well off that like instant feedback loop.
Yeah. If you can get a pop like right off the top, that's like, oh, we're gonna have fun here, and vice versa. If it's like just crickets for your first joke, you're like, this is going to be work or it's going to be really painful. So you never know.
And I've always been curious about that, like thinking on the fly, maybe you start out with something you thought was going to get that pop and it doesn't. Like, how does that, like in your head, how does that strategy change? When you start like, okay, well now I got to pull in this, push that back. And
usually it's that your first joke is something that like is going to work. Like hopefully it's like you have something that works in your first part of your set that like will work like in the 90% of the time sort of stuff. And if not, that's like where you do kind of improvise and it's like, ah, shit, I kind of have a thing of like, oh, sorry. Don't let a bomb go to waste, or don't let a joke bombing go to waste. So address it. You can get a laugh off of just like that, elephant in the room, just off of addressing it. But
interesting.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I never really thought about it like that. It makes sense. Turning a really shitty situation into a benefit.
You kind of have to. You have to address like when something just went not right. Because it's like, and if you're just trying to like soldier on. It's like you're not in the room. It's like you're not acknowledging, what's happening in the room.
So like playing somewhere like Red Door or Dry Heat where it's downtown as opposed to like a brewery somewhere. And like, I'm assuming you've gone like, because is B2B in Rio Rancho?
B2B is off of Comanche. So it's like in the Heights.
Okay.
And there's really not a whole lot of comedy in the Heights.
Yeah.
So it turns out to be a different audience, but a really good comedy audience, interestingly enough.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, do you feel like you have to play differently between those two sections of the city?
Interestingly, B2B like winds up being like a great comedy audience. They're like a comedy club audience. They're there to laugh. They wind up being good. Now, when you go and do like a bar show, other bar shows, it can be challenging because it's people that aren't necessarily there to see comedy, or they only vaguely were aware that comedy was going to be there, and they've never been to a comedy show before. And really what they want to do is get drunk and talk to their friends. And that's where there's all kinds of different factors that come in, just crowd control and getting people's attention, and that's where you're addressing, if people are talking very loud, you just have to address whatever the hell it is that's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just kind of working off that, but that's hard. I mean, that's where it's like you get the people that, like a Zagabeta or a Buck D, they handle that very well.
I was gonna say, like, kind of juxtapose that, because like those two are like loud, they're fucking out there, and they almost like attack the audience. Like, what do you find like in your tool belt to help like do crowd control, do the whole like? Because I remember I went to a roast battle, like the last one that was put on at Revel, and the back of the audience just like wouldn't shut up, and Buck was hosting it. Yeah. And he says, in the back, would you just shut the fuck up? And and everyone loved it. Yeah. Everyone loved it. Everyone was already sauced up by then, so it was great. But like,
sometimes you just can't. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, like, there are just some audiences that are immune to comedy. They're like they're not having it. So you just kind of work around it, and it just winds up being what it is. But somebody like Zach or Buck, they are just like natural at talking to the audience and like thinking off the top of their head. And I'm a writer, or like I'm like a pre-prepared, like I want to write my bits. And for the first few years that I've been doing this, it's been like I just want to do my act, and I would get challenged by like it's like shit's like happening in the crowd, and it's like I'm trying to recite my stuff, and it just doesn't work. You have to deal with whatever is going on in the room. So like that is something I'm doing a lot better at now. So it's not. I was talking to Steph about this last night. It's like you're either a natural riffer or writer. You're like one or the other usually. And if you're a riffer, then you need to work on writing. If you're a writer, then you need to work on riffing.
Right.
So it's you need both. You actually have to have like both in play to be a good working comedian. But people are usually one or the other as far as just naturally.
And do you feel like you benefit a lot from being around the other comedians a lot, spending that time with them and like really feeding off that energy?
Yeah.
Because that's like, I mean, that's something that's perpetuated by like the, like Joe Rogan and all his friends on their podcast. Like they don't shut the fuck up about hanging out with each other.
Yeah.
And so is that like a consistent thing?
No, that's part of the deal, is like hanging out with people, hanging out with comics. It's like the best hang ever. And then on top of that, everybody's obsessed. We have a lot of people here in Albuquerque that are trying to make a go of it. So they're actually trying to do it for a living. They're trying to be professional. And like that feeds, for those of us that are trying to do that, we all definitely feed off of each other and dork out on comedy, talk about it all the time. So it's somewhat of an obsession, I guess.
Well, that's good. I mean, I feel like something like that, like where there is a lot of competition and competition only grows. Like I said, like even not from, or like the profiles I follow on Instagram, like yours, or like friends I have on Facebook, like I just see around the town like ads left and right.
Yeah,
about comedy here.
Everybody's doing shows now, and it's good. I mean, it's nothing but good. Everybody seems to be adding something to it. So no, I'm stoked about what's going on in Albuquerque. I mean, ultimately, what I'm looking to do is get in a van and like just kind of like drive around from city to city and do the. It's like van life, except I'm poor. It's not like cool event. Like
you didn't have the initial like $300,000 to retrofit a van.
Yeah, it's not like tech bro van life. It's like poverty, like poverty. Yeah, it's like comedian. It's like camper hobo comedian. Yeah,
that's fucking great.
Yeah.
Well, because you've mentioned that you've been out of town and you've gone like on the road for a bit. Like, what is there something like stands out to you? Whether from like that was either a really great crowd or I learned a lot there. Or
that's the thing. You got to go. I'm of the belief that you have to go in front of different crowds and different audiences and different cities to kind of test your material. because different stuff works in different places, and what you're looking for is kind of the more universal, I guess. So yeah, I'm constantly trying to get as far as I can, I mean, within reason. So there's like it's the budget. It's like, where can I get that's like Dallas, that's like far, but really Texas, Colorado, Arizona, that kind of, that's what we're focusing on right now. But
well, and then when you go around and because everything is so just impossibly politically driven these days.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Like it's becoming insane, like more insane than usual.
Yeah.
Whenever you're going in front of different crowds, do you find yourself being cognizant of that, or you just like, fuck it, I'm gonna be funny, and if they like it, they like it, and if they don't, eat a dick.
I'm not like out to be super edgy. I have my political bent, but like people might. I mean, I have some stuff in there, but it's more. I don't think it's like gonna like freak anybody out. I don't know.
Right.
It's not meant to like try and like really offend people. I don't know. Maybe some of it is. I haven't had any like issues with it yet so far.
Not yet,
I
right?
guess. So, yeah, and I don't have anything that's like that's gonna get the wokes too mad at me, or their right counterparts. So
well, I've noticed like a lot of the comedians here, I haven't really found one that's I'm sure there is, and I haven't seen you perform, I haven't met you yet, but I have yet to see one perform that they're like super right leaning or super left leaning. They're always just kind of down the middle. They'll shit on Biden as much as they shit on Trump, and they'll shit on Grisham as much as they shit on Ronchetti, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'm a equal opportunity shitter. I mean, I'm definitely more lefty, but I don't know. I think my job as a comedian is to make people laugh first. So I like to have my comedy lead my politics rather than vice versa, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes perfect sense, actually. Yeah.
So as far as my comedy goes, it's like the ultimate thing is that people have a good time and laugh. Not that I get I'd rather be funny than right, I guess, is
no, I mean, and that's what you're there for. I don't think anyone goes to.
I could be both. I could also be both, but I would if I were to choose, I would rather be funny than right.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, because nobody goes to a comedy show to get the news.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want to.
Interestingly enough, the comedy is a hugely powerful medium to get a political point across.
For sure.
So that's why you have like people from both right and left will play you a George Carlin bit, or they'll play you a Bill Hicks bit.
Right.
Because it's just such a salient point.
Yeah.
But again, it's I want to do both. Ultimately, like that's the highest, ideal is that I could. It's something that's so funny, but it says, it's a social commentary that makes an incredibly great point that everybody wants to play for their friends and whatever. But at the end of the day, you got to make people laugh, and if that's a dick joke, then that's what it is.
Well, I mean, that's what's so great about George Carlin's his legendary bit about the American dream is because whether on your right or on your left, there's a 95% chance that you're not a part of the club that he talks about, right?
There's a big club and you're not in it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And no, I think you made a great point. Like, I think, especially today, in the city that we're in the state that we're in, it'd be very easy to get up on a stage, you tell a joke, and then you immediately lead with a political stance that everyone can agree on, and then get a clap. I think that's very easy.
People do it. I mean, it's not like people definitely do it, and but
it gets old real fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, all right, you're right about that. Let's tell a joke now.
No, yeah, it just and I only bring that up because we're entering our own, from the state side, we're entering our election season.
Yeah.
And granted, I haven't been to an open mic or I haven't been to a comedy show in about It was the last time I went to one. It was like, it's maybe been like 2 or 3 months, maybe. And I can only imagine, like, do you feel like it's getting more political? Like, does that happen?
Well, for comedy, I don't think it's getting any more or less. Like, people are always at a baseline. You might just have, like, a couple of, like, fuck Ronchetti, asides, that come out, but nothing, like, crazy serious.
Yeah.
Not really. Yeah, I think that we've been in such a hyper politicized thing in general for so long that it's I don't know, it's kind of hard to have context. It doesn't seem like we're ever out of an election cycle anymore. Like, I remember when it used to, like, calm down in between election cycles. And now, I mean, like, I used to pay way more attention to this than any healthy human person should. And now I'm fairly tuned out of it to almost an irresponsible degree, in my opinion. That's one thing I noticed is, like, I just dread every election cycle, because it just gets, the chatter, social media chatter just gets so much worse. It's probably worse. I think that's the thing, is that Twitter is not real life, like, social media is not real life. And people can get, like, if you actually go out into public spaces, people are a lot nicer. I mean, people might talk some shit. I mean, in an open mic, people are going to talk a little bit of shit, but it's, like, mild, I guess I would say, in comparison to anything that you would find online.
Well, you're right. I mean, it definitely used to be, not a constant political cycle all the fucking time. And I think a lot of that changed. Well, I think everything changed with Trump becoming president.
Yeah.
And then the way that he got elected, and then the way in which he used social media.
Yeah.
And he pretty much set Twitter on fire.
Just done.
That whole house burned.
It's like, this is never gonna end. This is just like, it's not gonna end. Like, that's the thing, is that it started, and you're absolutely right. It's like that election started, and it's like, okay, the election's gonna be over, and that's what normally happens, is the election is over. And it still sucks. I mean, there's people that are, like, the super, rank and file, partisans that are, that are still going to pay attention to every little, minutia that's going on. But most people are just like, we can go back to paying attention to sports and reality television, what the fuck ever.
Right.
But, like, Trump, like, was like, no, this is all the time. We're doing this the 2020 election for the next 4 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, and he, like, God, like him or hate him, like, that's all he knows.
Yeah.
All he knows is, before there was clickbait, there was views on television, there was ratings, and that's all he knew how to drive up.
He understands that on a level that is
maniacal,
pretty crazy. Yeah. And understands how to manipulate the media in a way that is fucking scary. But yeah, people just couldn't. It was a perfect storm of the media. Like, it's MSNBC, the president at some point said, he's like, this is bad for the country, but good for us, I mean, like, we're giving him, blanket coverage, because, like, of course, I mean, like,
which is going to get your ratings and drive your ad revenue up.
I mean, like, you can't, I mean, that's the thing. It's, the incentives that are created in our current media climate are that it rewards the perfect storm of, like, that kind of craziness. So I shudder to think. I shudder to think of what else could happen.
Well, I mean, that was all, like, that was all pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And then now it's
I was thinking about this on the way over here, how, like, media became less fun after Trump. Like, like, there was just certain things that it was like, okay, this isn't fun anymore. Like, this sucks. Like, everybody, like, me personally, because I'm, identify with the left more, but the left sucked. Like, it became shittier after Trump, and then after COVID, it became even worse after that.
Well, it became scary.
It just became everything became shitty, and it's like, no, but I don't. I don't know who to trust for anything. I'm so cynical and paranoid for any news source. It's almost like they have to be out of the country for me to take it halfway seriously.
No, yeah, and it's just gotten scary, especially now, because now we're gonna get into eventually, right? We're gonna get into the 2024 election. And it's not like I can't imagine with everything that's happened over the last 2 years. I cannot imagine that the Democrats run Biden again. I can't.
You would think that.
There's no way.
You would think that maybe they'll do Kamala Harris.
No.
I mean,
There's
she's
no
worse.
way.
It's just like, that's the thing. Here's just full disclosure. Biden was the last person, in the crowded field. I don't know if you remember, but there were 76 Democratic candidates.
Well, that's my thing.
I'm exaggerating, but it was a ridiculous amount of candidates.
No, yeah, they had 13 people, and they're so big on diversity and inclusion. We want minorities. We want to represent women. So it's okay, great. You have this whole gamut of people.
Yeah.
You had a fucking Asian dude. You had a Hawaiian lady. You had a black guy. You had all these people, and they narrowed it down to the 2 old white dudes.
Yeah.
And then out of the 2 old white dudes, they picked the senile one.
Yeah.
They run him again for 2024, it's going to be weakened at Bernie's.
It's going to be Trump re-election if Trump gets nominated, and I think it's going to be Trump re-election if they, not. I do not want this.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Neither do I.
I'm just looking at how shitty the Dems have done. Let's just be fucking honest, and that's the thing is that they came out. They've kind of fucked the base of their party 2 elections in a row. So it's the people that were supporters of Bernie during the 2016 election. It was all right, how about this? All you people that supported Bernie, go fuck yourself. Go home and get your fucking shine box and kill yourself. Pretty much. I mean, it's get in line. And it's pretty much been the same message, in the 2020 election. And they moved heaven and earth and every, dirty, trick that they could to freaking, pretty much submarine any chance of Bernie being competitive, but who knows?
Well, because I never got on board with a lot of what Bernie said, but at least from my opinion, at least it really seemed like he cared. Agree with him or not, at least he was trying and he stuck to his virtues.
Yeah. He was a candidate that had principles. He had identifiable principles.
To a rate that any politician could.
Yeah.
Because they're all corrupt at one level.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I think that, he kind of had that sort of thing of, what he strikes me as just a basic old school New Deal Democrat. He would not have shocked Dwight Eisenhower. Any of the policies that Bernie proposed, Dwight Eisenhower would have been I mean, the tax rate under Eisenhower was 95%. What are you going to, so it's, or 90% for top income earners. So, our perception of what Bernie is saying, it's just, we've since Reagan have our lexicon of what is acceptable political speech is shifted so far to the kind of libertarian right that we don't remember that we had sort of a function Keynesian welfare state for a long time. Whether you think that's a good thing or not, I mean, I think it's preferable to every man for himself. But
well, and again, maybe this is just my young age. Maybe this is just naivety, the last of it that's in me. But I would like to believe that the most developed and, at least for the time being, maybe by the time this episode comes out, we are not the wealthiest country in the world because our dollar's fucking, our dollar is getting absolutely molested right now.
Yeah.
But I would like to believe that the wealthiest country in the world can come up with a plan where it's hey, we're not going to give you everything, but if you break your arm in a car accident, you're not fucked for life.
You would think that would be you have like competing capitalists, I think, in that regard. There's plenty of people that would love to not like get gouged for health insurance, you know, because there's all these companies that are paying their employees health insurance that are paying out the ass, you know, to like to pay for it, and it's expensive and it doesn't like deliver the results that, you know, other countries get for spending less money. Yes. So it really is just the pharmaceutical industry here and the medical industrial complex is billions of dollars of capital that can afford the lobby the Dems. Interestingly enough, that's like who they really have. I was gonna say, but I mean, they've got the Republicans.
I was
too.
To assume the Republicans aren't in bed.
Yeah, no, they have the Republicans, but the thing is that I guarantee you that like who they really need are they need certain key Dems to like freaking kill any chance of that happening.
Which is hilarious to me because they're the ones waving the flag of equality, waving the flag for help the poor, help the homeless. But it's like no. In reality, we just need to put it into a space where I don't see it anymore. Make it not my problem.
Yeah, the Dems are really good at. We will name a post office after Martin Luther King. We will put Black Lives Matter on, you know, a freaking, you know, a billboard. We'll do some sort of thing to make us feel better about a situation or to act like we're doing some sort of moral victory, but we don't do anything substantive to like change anybody's lot in life. You know, if we do that now, granted, if they try, anytime that they try and do anything remotely like that, the Republicans scream that it's like the second coming of Chairman Mao. You know, but. That's the game. That's the game. Is the Dems offer the sort of impotent milquetoast reform, and then the Republicans scream that is rank Marxist-Leninism. You know, so yeah.
Well now like the away from more of the because I'm not as well versed in like the actual like tax structures and like that as I probably should be. Mm-hmm. So now I'm starting to actually get like big boy jobs and like I should worry about that, but I just choose not to be honest.
Yeah.
But like it's where I draw the line with because like personally for me, if you are a grown adult, do what the fuck you want. Yeah. Right? Do what you want, live your life. As long as you're not hurting other people, dude, live your life. Or do that. Live your fucking life. Yeah. But what's starting to get worrisome is pushing very strict political ideas, pushing like coming from like an institutional standpoint, like in the household, whatever you want to talk about is what you talk about. But from an institutional standpoint, you're pushing political ideas, you're pushing gender/sexual ideas. Yeah. Pushing that into the schools and onto kids is where it becomes worrisome for me. Yeah. That's where I start to draw the line. Yeah. It's like it is not the government's job to raise children.
Yeah.
Ideologically speaking.
Yeah, ideologically speaking, definitely. But I think that's the thing. We've been ideologically... it's not new.
No. No, it's not.
I mean, we've been saying the pledge for, I don't want to get too much into the minutia of that sort of thing, but we do like kind of like all these like loyalty oaths, that we'll have like kids, I don't know. But I understand what you're. I agree with that. I don't think that we should be in the business of.
Well, it's just the idea of because I can kind of see where you're coming from with like the pledge. Because I mean, on the one hand, it's like I do believe there should be a level of patriotism for someone's country, right? Because you should want your country to succeed. I hate the government with a fiery passion, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to wake up one day and thoroughly support our president. I would love to be able to say amongst all of this Ukraine and Russia nonsense that we'd have a strong leader. I'd love to say that, right? It would help me sleep a little better at night. But unfortunately, we are where we are. And then we have a vice president that said we have a great alliance with North Korea. Yeah. So, they are not even on this planet. They're not on this fucking planet, right? And then, I would be, I see where people come from, like, well, that's like a form of brainwashing or that's a form of, conformitarianism, some shit like that. But, like, I guess it would be an easier pill to swallow if our country just didn't. Not that every country doesn't, but our country has such a horrible track record of just blatantly lying to its population about what's really going on.
Yeah.
Or like what they've really done behind the scenes.
We've got a pretty good track record for that, don't we?
Well, 'cause, I mean, you got the Gulf of Tonkin for Vietnam. And then now we're literally starting to get documents released for 9/11.
Yeah.
It's like the one group of people we swore weren't involved. The Saudis were involved.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's like a big one. And those are our special friends, and that's like kind of like the reason our dollar has been propped up since Nixon anyway is just off of the petrodollar, and why we got so angry at Saddam Hussein. For wanting to sell oil in euros, but that's neither here nor there. I don't think we should be indoctrinating kids, and you would want people to have a certain amount of patriotism. But you kind of have to know exactly what's going on. I don't know. There's like it's like a weird thing that's going on, I think, in our educational system now, where it's like we've overcorrected a little bit, in my opinion. So it's like we've gone from everything is awesome, everything that America has ever done is awesome. White knight, blah 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 blah. We came here, the Indians were super happy with us, and blah 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 blah, freedom, blah blah blah. I mean, it's like a very sanitized, leave it to Beaver. Rah rah America, version of our history, and it is not that. But I think that we're kind of like we are absolutely evil. Everything. We've like gone like full the other way. Everything that we've ever done is for venal and nefarious purposes.
Right.
Granted, what I would say is just that we've been in the position to exercise power. So, and given the opportunity, any country would, probably be a bit fast and loose with it. But
and every major civilization did. That was the whole point.
It's not terribly shocking.
It's not exclusive to us.
It's not. It's not peculiar. Yeah, exactly. We're not special in that regard. As far as like people that like get on top and they abuse it. What are you gonna do? No, I don't think we should. I mean, it's definitely.
Well, I think we've gotten to a point now where, again, it's an overcorrection, and I don't think just like I said with we should have some sort of system in place where if you break your arm or you get into some medical incident, and you're not absolutely in debt for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
In that same thought process, sure, acknowledge all the shitty things that has happened in the past, but don't exactly ignore the great things that have happened.
I think that you can't throw certain aspects of the Enlightenment out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
So like the Constitution is flawed as it is like all we have. So, but
we were the first ones to really get it right. We fucked up a lot of things. Like slavery is not exactly a little thing in this country's history. No. But and even as a kid growing up, I was like, okay, we learned about the Constitution. Okay, all men are created equal. Okay. But like, and there's that's the Declaration. But like in the Constitution, there's a Bill of Rights.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, well, we have all these things, but it didn't apply to this certain group of people for a stretch of like 200 some years.
Yeah.
So okay, that's a little strange.
Yeah.
And the one thing that does bug me, and I got taught about the Civil War throughout my school, whether it was elementary, middle, and high school, college. Mm-hmm. But what was worrying to me, it was the first thing that kind of got in my head about like, okay, maybe political ideals are really starting to affect my education, is some teachers I had would talk about the Civil War and be like, it was over slavery. It was about the North wanted to do this, South wanted this, and they butted heads. Watered down, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
But then other teachers were like, no, not slavery. It's about states' rights. But it's like, okay, the states' right to what?
States' rights to own slaves, it turns out. Well, I think that the argument that I would, and this is my personal opinion, but it's that it was definitely about slavery, but it wasn't about the morality of slavery. It was about the economics of slavery.
Yes.
And the moral cause of it happened to be, actually, there is a moral cause for it. All of the abolitionists, had, their heart in the right place. But I think what actually moved the needle on that was really just, and Lincoln, said as much. It's like, I'm here to preserve the Union. It's like, so whether we free, all the slaves or some of the slaves or none of the slaves, I'm here to preserve the Union. It's just that we can't have rebel states on our landmass, because this is coming from the Monroe Doctrine, and the Monroe Doctrine is that everything in this hemisphere is, we run it, so freaking this is ours. That's what it kind of like turned into. It's like, South America, you're ours. Canada, you're ours. I mean, you're your own countries, but pretty much like as far as anything militarily, we run this part. Right. To have. That is just unacceptable to have anything like, and that you can see that through our history, Civil War included. We just cannot have that. You can't have a rival power in this hemisphere, and especially not on this landmass.
Well, and you bring up a really good point about, like, yes, you two, like, Canada's your own thing, everything down South America, you're your own things. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when it comes to actual firepower, it's ours.
If we want to change the government of Guatemala, then we will. If we want to change the government of, whatever, freaking El Salvador, freaking Cuba or wherever, it's like, then we will do our best to remedy that situation.
Yeah, JFK fucked that one up pretty
good. We have, yeah. Yes. Well, we had like kind of a comedy of errors trying to go after Castro back in the day. I don't know if you know the Operation Mongoose stuff, where it's like we were getting the mob involved in, like trying to poison cigars, poison wetsuits, just like crazy stuff. But
well, and then Operation Northwoods.
Operation Northwoods was like a 9/11 style. Well, it was a false flag.
It was a false flag towards Cuba, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a false flag towards Cuba. People don't know about it. Basically, the plan was that these people brought, not these people, the heads of the military in the Pentagon brought this to Kennedy's desk, and they were like, hey, we're going to go ahead and blow up a couple, like an army installation and then a couple of destroyers on the East Coast. Yeah. And we're going to blame it on Cuba, use that as a way to invade. Yeah. And Kennedy was like, nah, that's not a good idea. And then later he was assassinated. Yeah. Not those two are correlated. Yes. But,
there's so much stuff that's going on in that time period. And like even that later in the 70s, you have, there's so much state, like us, funding terror in Cuba. We have there's a guy that like hijacked a plane. Like I think he like lives in freaking. Where's he living now? It's like Pennsylvania or something like that. But it's been so long since I've read on that, so it's like.
So what was the story?
Again, it's like I'm speaking out of my ass because it's like I haven't done like the the requisite reading before I came in here, because I know we're going to talk about this, but I'm enjoying it. But
no, you're good. But you brought up a good point about us having the mindset and also having the firepower to back it up of like this is all ours, and now we see that like that's been playing throughout the decades, obviously through the war on terror, which was a failure, and then now we're seeing that Western mindset is completely fueling Zelensky over in Ukraine. Yeah. And that's the whole reason I believe personally that they're not backing down. Aside from the fact that they got invaded, they have to defend their own country. Yeah. But it's like we have America's back. And then now that every time that Biden or someone from his fucking Department of Defense says, if Russia does this, it will be met with this. And if someone does so of course he's going to be like, yeah, I've got the military of the United States backing me up. We're going to go ahead and do what the fuck we want. It's like, well, there's like 15 people tops really pulling the strings here. Yeah. And they are all actively toying with nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, no, it's insane, and we've had a hard on. Well, that's the unfortunate thing is that we did have the Russia hawks elected. You know, I mean, like that's the wing of the party that has had a hard on for Russia. You know, interestingly enough, but as to why, you know, is you know, I don't know. I'm skeptical. Grew up during the Cold War, so I am automatically skeptical of anything that I hear about Russia from the American media ever.
Well, yeah.
Not to say that. No, again, I will qualify that with. I think Putin's an asshole. He's a fucking thug. I mean, like he's obviously committed war crimes. I mean, like there's not a great guy.
Oh no, but, no, it's tough to say that he's a good person, but at the same time,
but I don't trust. I don't think. Our intentions are entirely pure in that regard. I think that I don't know. It's geopolitical.
Well, I was having this conversation with a couple of my buddies this past weekend, and I was like, yeah, you know, Putin's not a good dude. What he's doing, I can't agree with it with the little knowledge I know about like the geopolitics. I know about world affairs, but what I do know is that post-Cold War, NATO agreed with the now fallen USSR. Yeah. They agreed that they will not push to their border. Well, what's happened over the last 40-something years is West and East Germany became one. Yeah. Germany joins NATO. They're right there. And now you've got Ukraine, who's applied since this conflict started. They've applied 3 times to be a part of NATO. They've got rejected every time, and it's obvious why. Yeah. But we're still funding them. We're still giving them money. We're giving them food. We're supplying this war.
We're essentially in a proxy war with Russia.
Well, it is a proxy war. It is. Yeah. And so and now we're giving them, they actually have the tech now where they can control nukes from Ukraine.
It's insane.
And so if you were, and the way it started with my buddy was like, if you were like in America and like fucking like Ottawa, right? They're on our border, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. If Ottawa decided, they're pretty big, like the bottom half, decided to break away from Canada and they wanted to invade the United States and they were funded by Russia. Yeah. What would the United States do?
Oh my God.
We would fucking decimate them.
Yeah. It would be scorched earth.
Yeah, we would fucking decimate them before they even had the opportunity to get any kind of nuclear tech there.
Yeah. No.
So the fact that, and also we're also finding out that Russia's big army ain't that great.
No, of
course it isn't. We're finding out that pretty soon.
It's not.
And what's
sad has been. It has been, but it's no, it hasn't been great for a while.
And it's sad that the point that we're coming to is obviously none of this is confirmed, but one of the hopes from the head of the DOD is, well, maybe if it comes to nukes, their arsenal just doesn't work. It's so outdated and non-maintenance.
That's so awesome. It's so great that I mean, like, we still have like nukes that are run off of like giant floppy disk, you know, like
those are the only thing that can't get hacked.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Yeah, it's insane just that we have that situation in the first place, but that we're, you know, in a proxy war with another nuclear power is kind of insane. I don't know. There's a guy named Stephen Cohen. He's like the professor emeritus of Russian studies. I think it's at Princeton, but he writes a lot of stuff on Russia, and like he'll take like this sort of contrarian, view of Russia. Not that he's like really defending Putin, but like just it's like let's put things in perspective. And it's just like you said. It's like, from our perspective, it's like, you know, we've moved right up. And that's the thing. Ukraine is the doorway through which Russia was invaded twice in the last 2 world wars. Like, that's like we're running right through there. So that's where the Germans went in World War I, and then also in the Nazis in World War II. So it's there's kind of like a path, you know, and that's kind of like we don't really kind of think of because we're not geography proficient here in this country, but it's like there's all of these states that we're talking about that are like in between, you know, people that have invaded Russia before and Yeah, we're all up in that shit. I mean, like they're all NATO members, and now we're,
Yes.
you know, we've been.
Well, it's just like I could never justify what's going on.
No, of course not.
But it's
yeah.
like there's a very clear breadcrumb trail of what's going on here.
Yeah,
And, you know, again, like him or hate him, but the one thing I really did appreciate about Trump was that he actually spoke to our leaders, or our enemies.
Right.
He went and sat down with the enemies and was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, he got the North and South Korean leaders to shake hands.
Right.
That is unheard of, and is
Right.
probably never going to happen again.
Yeah.
So the fact he was actually able to do that he was actually have a dialogue with people like Putin, I mean, you know, there's credit there that should be due. That I don't think gets paid enough.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to like. I would agree that we would need to that it's good to talk to people. I wish that it would have been anybody but Trump.
Yeah,
it's hard for me to like get over just Trump as a person. Although that is one thing that his more kind of like not want him. Here's the thing with Trump is he would like kind of seem to have more of an isolationist bent, or like more of a like I don't want to like get into as much shit. But then it's like, but we need to spend more money on the military than like, you know, like ever before. So it's like he had like a lot of like rah, you know, we're gonna freaking, you know, fuck them up, blah, you know, rhetoric. But yeah, on some of those things, yeah, that we weren't as belligerent towards Russia was not a bad thing in my book, and that we were getting out of, you know, certain countries is not a bad thing.
Well, I think a lot of, because he was a lot more isolationist, and one thing Republicans don't really want to talk about is a lot more anti-gun than people want to give him credit for.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. But he, I think a lot more of the pumping up of the budget for the military was fixing what's broken.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of that went towards the VA.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it went towards actual like stateside maintenance of whether it's like equipment or I got a lot of buddies that are all active duty like across the branches, and they're like, yeah, there were dudes who re-enlisted or stayed in the military as officers or whatever it was, because of the policies Trump was putting in place.
Yeah.
And God, what was it? I think we went for the only time, and it was a record time during the War on Terror. I think that we went 18 months without a service member getting killed anywhere.
That's crazy.
Violence was still happening, shitty things were still happening, but there was 18 months where nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I'm not nearly well read or smart enough to be able to correlate that to an actual policy he did, but something went right for a little bit.
Yes.
So amongst the shit that he did, like something went right. Yeah,
it's one of those things that it's like I'd have to sit down and like go over like what from my perspective, because I'll have to admit that it's like I was so paying attention to like our foreign policy like up until the point that like Trump was elected, and then like midway through
you stopped in season 5. You're like, no, we're done.
I think at some point for my own mental health, like I had to like pull back from. It's like you're doing, like I said, it's like this is unhealthy. This is like too unhealthy an obsession. You don't need to know all this stuff. What are you gonna fucking do about it? You know.
And that's exactly the point that I got to during the pandemic. Right, like I would say, maybe 3 weeks. Excuse me, like 3 weeks after the George Floyd incident happened, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna just delete my shit because I just can't fucking stand everything that's going on. It's getting to me. I'm like, the world was already falling apart because of this lockdown, and now this shit happened. Okay, fuck this. And the only reason I got back on was the fucking podcast. Yeah, that is the only reason I reactivated all my shit. Just because of how essential it is. Yeah. To this whole operation. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I know, I get it, man. And then like what's scary too is, did you ever keep up with the Facebook whistleblower when that started happening?
I don't think so. Oh, was that that they were just talking about like that the algorithm is, you know, we're just keeping you here based on like fear and anger and like every like worst
was
all of your worst suspicions are like, yes,
they're true.
We are like really just have you in a negative feedback loop of outrage.
It was that, and then it was also that Zuckerberg and company.
Yeah.
They actually had quantitative data that showed countries like Russia, China, Iran, like actively using the algorithm against our country, like as a psyop to make us angrier, divide us more, and to like almost like. I don't know if I didn't read through all of it, but I think there's a bit of it that said where it actually did help alter the election in one way or another.
Yeah.
Its efficacy is debatable, I think, but the fact that like they were actually doing it.
Right.
But I guess they're called Meta now. Meta did nothing about it. They're like, okay, but it gets clicks and who gives a fuck? It's activity.
Yeah.
And so they got subpoenaed over it. And I think the only reason that there weren't any actual legal action is because they're a private company.
Well, private company is...
They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Well, that's the fun thing about private company, and this is where we get into the, that's the... Where do we start messing? It's a societal thing. It's something that like has a societal impact, but, free market ideology dictates that, this is a private company. We can't... Well, we would love to do something, but it's the whole private property that we would then bring out the scrolls and
So then
private property.
What would be the alternative though? Because like we've said before, I don't exactly
government intervention in some way.
I don't trust our government because they're already altering it. We can healthily assume that.
Well, here's the thing: is that, and this is why I'm cynical and apathetic. But
this is why you mostly complain.
It is why I mostly complain. But what we need is a functioning government that can address certain grievances like this or address like some of these societal issues. But our current government is so morally bankrupt and just like purchased. I mean, Jimmy Carter, interestingly enough, like has said like one of his more poignant things in his later years, but it's just a system of legalized bribery. So I don't think that anybody has any illusions that Congress isn't bought and paid for by the highest bidder.
Well, so how is it that Nancy Pelosi's husband is a better predictor of the stock market than fucking Warren Buffett? How is that a thing?
Funny that.
How is that a thing?
Yeah, you're again.
Like, have you seen that?
People are like, "Are you like a right winger that you're making fun of the Dem, or that you're so shitting on the Dems?" It's like, no, I'm actually a leftist, which makes me hate the Dems.
Well, I think there's, especially now in a post-COVID era, like for me personally, I make a very strict differential between a liberal or a Democrat and then the left. The left is the radical let's inject kids with hormone blockers and let's do 1,000 different genders and all this different like crazy shit.
Well, and to me as a leftist, or do I consider myself a leftist, that doesn't have anything to do with the left.
Right.
So like where I'm coming from is like I'm probably using the older definitions.
Right.
So liberal, for the longest time in this country, even like it really was the middle of the country.
Well, because people don't know that. It's like
people don't know that there was
Democrat, Republican, they stay stagnant. Yeah. But liberal, conservative, they change. I think the average is 56 years. They'll change.
Yeah. But liberal, we used to have a left wing in the country. So we had liberals, and that was like kind of like the FDRs, who's the fucking Woodrow Wilsons. Those are like the kind of considered the old school liberals. But FDR is, did the New Deal, welfare, freaking Social Security, like that whole thing, Keynesian economics. To his left, you actually had like two socialist parties and a communist party, and that was like, that was like the left, like it was hardcore, Union Trotskyist,
Yeah.
But we systematically destroyed those movements we did it in the 30s, but we did it also in the 50s, like during the McCarthy era. I mean, it was just like big Red Scare,
Right.
it became politically untenable to be a socialist or a communist during the Cold War.
Right.
That was not a thing that happened in every other European country. So that's why they still have, socialist communists. It's like you can't hate communists because your auntie is a communist.
Right.
It's not like it's not a crazy point of view.
Well, I think that's what sunk Bernie, was that he came out as a democratic
Yeah.
socialist.
Yeah,
Once you
and we don't.
attach-
And that's the thing is that in a European country that would be nothing. Here we don't know what that means because we haven't had a socialist party, like a real socialist party, like since the 50s. Like anyone that had any power, I would say
Right.
we really haven't had one since the 50s. And that word is like had so much baggage attached to it. That it doesn't, you have to explain it to people, and it's like if you're explaining to people, then you're losing an argument.
Well, the idea of a true quality of or equality of outcome is a scary thing, I think.
Yes, and I don't think that that's what
That can't be the answer.
I don't think that that's what a lot of people were arguing for, because equality of outcome. That seems to be.
Well, it never works.
It doesn't,
because
well,
that
it doesn't-
outcome is immediately squashed.
And this is where we go into something that is kind of a Marxist-Leninist phenomenon, and this is what happened in the Soviet Union, and should be. I'm reading a book. God, who is the guy's name? His last name is Peterson, but it's called Modern Times, and it's from a liberal perspective. But it is.
Just wanna come
I'm sorry. It's very.
Feel free to fuck with this. And move it around. It's not.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's very criticizing of the Soviet Union, but yeah, that is quite different from what would be orthodox Marxism that was happening at the time in the 1900s or the 1917. At that particular time. That would be, but again, we're getting into the weeds on that. But
but at the end of it, because obviously our political system, our healthcare system, the financial system, it all needs to change.
Yeah.
It all needs big maneuvers to happen. But what's scary is how, let's say, by some miracle, things start to change, things alter. How vulnerable do we become during that change because of the disruption?
This whole societal shift that we're talking about? Oh,
yes.
I think that we're in a very fragile, I'm not optimistic.
Yeah.
It's like one of those, I see it getting a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Our power grid is not great. There's really just not a whole lot.
We saw that in Texas with the big freeze 2 years ago, right? Year and a half ago?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot standing between us and absolute Mad Max hellscape. We have all these post-apocalyptic, movies and fantasies and video games and all that stuff. But I think that we're, there's a reason we like that, because it's that's so possible.
Yeah, it's oh shit, we're a hop and a skip away from it.
Yeah, we're not that far. But I don't know. That's where I try and be optimistic despite logic.
Yeah.
Yes, they call that faith, and that's interesting from an agnostic. But
yeah, no, it's just scary. How open would that leave us? Because again, there's a. I can't remember if this was written by the Chinese and then adopted by the Russians or vice versa. But basically, what it was, I think, back in the late 70s going into the 80s, it's this whole thing on how to disrupt and dissolve America. And it's this 25-year plan. And it's how you you take apart the nuclear family, you turn the patriots against their country, you kind of and then you make the general populace, you lead them to believe that everything their country has done is absolutely horrible and evil.
yeah,
And it's neck deep into what we're into right now.
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because that kind of comes out of there's a lot of like just full disclosure there's a lot of like kind of like what I would consider ham-fisted anti-communist propaganda. Again, there's plenty of reasons to not like communism.
Yes,
that for just
there is every reason
for its actual its incarnation,
like what actually happens.
But like what actually happens. But I think there are people that have a need to gussy it up a little bit, and so gosh, I'm trying to think. Because like what you're describing reminds me of something that I had read, and that my parents are like super big into this. So like everything, like I've unfortunately read The Naked Communists and a number of other books that I find not great. Suffice it to say, though, that there's plenty to complain about, just in its normal form, and I do see the point that there are people that are. I would have like argued that it's like nobody is arguing that like 10 years ago. Like 10 or 12 years ago, I would have like come back if somebody like were making that we're gonna try to destroy the nuclear those states. It's like there's really like not anybody serious that's doing that. But now we for whatever reason we've like in academia we've like put like a certain amount of like frothing at the mouth crazy people in charge to the detriment of the academy because I don't find that there's not scholarship in it.
Well, even myself, like in the very small interactions I've had with UNM going there right now, like it's so hyper political and it's so hyper leftist and hyper liberal that like it's over polluting the actual and I'm going to fucking film school but
it doesn't. Here's the thing that what I will point out to that is this is what I call it corporate leftism or boutique corporate leftism, because we're all about the war machine and we're not really going to do anything to help anybody, but we will fucking shit on, like, we'll make you feel better for feeling better than these racist white assholes.
Yes.
You can feel superior to them and we will shit on them all day, and we'll put Black Lives Matter on the side of a fucking B-2 bomber. We'll raise the rainbow flag, as we, cut freaking taxes on billionaires. It's like, as long as we're going to do it through the lens. It winds up being it's another. Gosh, I keep mentioning authors that I can only remember like part of their name. But it's a guy named Adolph Reed. He's a historian, but he's a black guy, but who's gotten in trouble with the left. But he has a quote that it's anti-racism is serving the purpose of social control that racism did in the early or 20th century. So anti-racism now becomes, because like this goes back to racism being something of social control. You have like it's divide and conquer. So you have like one poor group of white assholes and then a group of other minorities that are also poor, that are getting fucked by people above them. And in order to keep that system going, we have to have these people at odds.
Yes.
And that's been going on for hundreds of years. It's not
narrative
new.
is
Not
quite
new.
literally flipped now.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
So we're accomplishing the same thing. Before we were encouraging racism. Actually, actively. We were courting it. Now we're turning it around.
Well, everyone's a racist now. That's the problem. Everyone's a racist. Everyone's a fascist.
They're taking the meaning out of it, because racism
it has no meaning.
Does have it, but there is like a tangible thing.
Like,
that is
well,
racism.
right, there is, but as far as things like the mainstream media,
but it
social
undermines,
media.
yeah,
Right. No,
yeah,
the idea that calling everyone or everything racist because it offends you or it may offend, people
I think it undermines the actual
the act of racism, the act of fascism, the actual like active discriminatory things that happen every day. That gets undercut by calling a comedian's bit racist because he says something you didn't like.
Yeah, and people just want to like feel like they're
doing the right thing.
They're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
There's people that have their hearts in the right place, but they just don't know what to do, and like that's something that I'm gonna don't tweet about it. But what was it? I was just so I could think of what were we talking about. Sorry, my weed brain just like kicked in.
Well, no, it's when you wave the flag of social justice, it's very hard to attack that person. It's like, what? You don't want people to be happy? You don't want people to be equal? You don't want people to have the same rights as you? Oh, you're bad. You're a insert derogatory term here.
This doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't like amount to like actual debate.
No, of course it doesn't, because you're at the end of the day, you're selling out to a virtue you don't believe in.
Yeah, but again, I have this. I get into arguments with people on my own side, and then I get into the alternative to that is that I have friends that are big QAnon people. So it's like I get to go down that rabbit hole, and it's like. I'm sick of arguing. But here's one thing I would say with what's going on in the academy that I find troubling, because it's and this is happening with college, and it's also happening with the medium, because those people that have graduated from the academy are going into the medium it is undermining both of those institutions, like to a degree to where people do not have faith in them, to which you need to have a functioning democracy, because those are the organs of, they're instruments of information for which we need to know what the fuck is going on. So the news to know what's going on day to day, and the academy to know what's gone on in the past and to interpret the past. And those institutions are fucked right now. And one thing I will say is that I don't see it like somebody like, Jordan Peterson or, some of the, kind of the communists, the commies, they're going to take over, and it's like, I don't see that. What I see is I see them spurning a fascist, like they're pouring fuel on the fire of of a fascist uprising, more than anything, because at the end of the day, these people don't have guns. They just don't. They don't know how to. I don't know if you've seen any of these people try to fight. It's not good. So.
Well, I think that's.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried about the. You can get socially crucified. As long as that matters. But how long does that matter?
Well, as cynical as that point is, I think that's a good a lighter point to end on for sure.
The end is coming, kids.
But so before we get out of here, though, what do you have going on around the city that people can go check out?
I've got 2 shows or 3 shows that are coming up this weekend, so I'll just plug those. So I've got Bow and Arrow Brewing on Friday, and we've got Kurt Fletcher headlining. He's like one of the best comics in the city. One of my good buddies. We've got at Dry Heat Comedy Club on Friday the 22nd. We've got Mark Yaffe coming in, who's a Native American comic who's freaking awesome. And then I'm going to be doing Zach Abeda and Friends at Dry Heat Comedy Club on Sunday, the 23rd. So that's going to be a good one. But yeah.
Sweet, man.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome. And then you've got Red Door every Wednesday, right?
I've got Red Door every Wednesday. You can come and tell jokes and drink some beers. And yeah, I don't talk about politics at all.
No, it sounds like it. No, I've been there, and from experience, it's a great event to go to during the week. It's awesome. No, yeah, it's fucking awesome,
yeah,
man. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming by and spending some time.
Yeah,
This has
man.
been a blast. It was great to meet you in person.
Okay, man.
And you, along with everyone else that's really killing it right now in comedy, I'm excited to see where it goes in this city.
Fuck yeah,
it's
man.
awesome.
Well, dude, thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was awesome to meet you. And thank you, everyone, again for watching and listening as normal. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.